Hey, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the Hilton Garden Inn Bali Airport in Bali, Indonesia on my recent stay in July 2025. I'm going to be reviewing the one-bedroom suite in detail, as well as the hotel facilities such as laundry, gym and swimming pool, and of course, the all-important breakfast. As the name suggests, the Hilton Garden Inn at Bali Airport is located about a 5-minute drive from the airport. I guess it's technically walking distance, but given Bali is a tropical climate, just a little bit below the equator, I would strongly advise you to get a car. The first thing that struck me about the hotel was how low it is. It only had 3 floors. Coming from a city where this would be considered a shop house, this was very cool to see, and it had such a large footprint. The lobby is open air. Well, it's got a ceiling, but it doesn't have walls, so unfortunately it was unair conditioned, and it could get quite hot at times. Thankfully, check-in was processed quickly and efficiently, and before long, I was heading up to my room. My room was on the 3rd floor, which is the highest floor, and, being a suite, was right at the end of a corridor. Let me speed this bit up. My room was room 3070, and it took about 2 minutes to get here. When you first enter the room, you walk into the living area. As you can see, there's a very nice table for you to eat on, a desk to do your work, and a sofa and a television. Then, to the right, is the bedroom, which is separated by a closable door if you want to have privacy to sleep whilst some of your guests are watching TV. On the left, when you enter the room, is a second toilet. Again, this is handy if you're not alone in the room, as having a second toilet can be a lifesaver during the morning and late at night. This was small and functional, definitely not as nice as the main one, but a great addition, and it was done to a nice standard. The toiletries were by Peter Thomas Roth, which is standard for Hiltons, and all in all, it was very pleasant. The dining table was a nice addition, as I frequently ordered food to the room during this trip, and so having the space to eat it in comfort was appreciated. Now, I wouldn't advise drinking the tap water in Bali, so they provided 4 complimentary bottles of water which were replenished. Tea and coffee facilities were also provided, although I would note the coffee is just standard Nescafe. This does not taste good, and you need to add some sweetener to it to make it drinkable. A minibar was provided, and thankfully it was empty, so you can put your own drinks into it. The room features a decently sized working desk and a comfortable chair, although do note there's only one universal power socket here, so if you're charging your laptop, you pretty much won't be able to charge anything else. A room service menu was provided. These prices were expensive by Bali standards, although not outrageous, and by Western standards were very affordable. Also provided in the room was a couch and a television to watch while you sit on it. There was also some very nice artwork featured throughout. They'd made a bit of effort with this room, and it was appreciated. The windows let in a lot of natural light, but unfortunately could cause glare on the television during peak periods. Not the end of the world as you had curtains, but something to bear in mind. One thing I loved was how they put so many trees at the eye level of the window. Even though you're right next to a road and very close to the airport, it felt a lot more tropical seeing these trees out of a window. Off of the living area was the bedroom, which featured a very large king bed. Honestly, this was one of the largest beds I've seen in an Asian hotel room, and it was very comfortable. By the side of the bed was a power socket, although do note this is not an international socket, so you likely will need an adapter. Hey, if you're enjoying the video so far, please subscribe. One other criticism I would have is that the television was very small. Now look, it's 2025. I'm not really watching TV in the room. More often than not, I'm on my iPad. But it would have been handy to have a nice TV in case I did want to watch something. Thankfully, the other side of the bed featured not just a universal power charger, but a USB-A and a USB-C charger. The cupboard featured all of the things you would expect in a decent hotel room: an ironing board, an iron, a safe to store your valuables, and plenty of hangers to hang your clothes. The air conditioning was controlled by this panel on the wall. It was very intuitive. Please don't be put off by it being 24.5. It did cool down. I believe the air conditioning is motion activated, so if you leave the room, it switches off, and I'd only just entered the room at this point. Off of the bedroom is the main toilet and shower area. A very spacious shower is provided, which also features a detachable shower head and a rain shower. Again, the toiletries are by Peter Thomas Roth, which seems to be the company that provides the toiletries for most Hilton hotels. As we're now in post-COVID, these seem to be in refillable bottles instead of individual miniatures. A single sink is provided, as well as a mirror which is heated so that it doesn't steam up when you use the shower. Also provided are a wide selection of toiletries, pretty much everything you could need for a short stay, including a dental kit, shaving kit, comb, shower cap, and vanity kit. They also have a hairdryer right next to the wall, which is very convenient for when you get out of a shower. The room also features a spacious bathtub, which is great if you want to have an alternative from a shower. One nice touch was that they also provided a loofah for you to use in the tub. I must say, the overall quality of the room and the amenities provided in the bathtub are far better than I would expect from a Hilton Garden Inn. Overall, for a Garden Inn, this is a very nice bedroom. It comes with a decent-sized bedroom, it's got a separate side area, and you certainly won't feel cramped at all in here. The finish is to a high standard, and I enjoyed my stay here. Anyway, let's check out the rest of the hotel. One feature that I have mixed feelings about in this hotel is the laundry facilities. Now, on the one hand, I'm glad they're provided. This is a super convenient way to take care of your laundry either before or after a long flight to Bali. The one issue I have with it though is the price point. They were charging 75,000 rupiah for both a wash and a dry, which means if you did a full cycle, this would cost you about 12 US dollars. That's absolutely extortionate by local standards. In this case, I only needed to wash a t-shirt, but I couldn't justify spending $12 to wash a t-shirt that cost me $20. One facility that I did like though was the gym. Aside from the fact that it looks out onto the swimming pool and gives you a great view, this place was absolutely huge. The funny thing is though, the size of the gym didn't translate to having any more equipment than you would typically see in a hotel gym. They just spread it out over an absolutely massive floor plan. They put a ton of space in between machines and on the general floor. What this means is that you're probably going to have to wait just as long as average to get a machine during peak periods, but it's never going to feel crowded. And also, the gym did have everything you would reasonably expect in a hotel gym, from free weights to weight machines to cardio such as treadmill or exercise bikes. It was a great place to get a workout, and to be honest, the entire time I was here, it never got crowded, even in peak periods. Another cool feature of this hotel which I really liked was the swimming pool. It's definitely got a resort vibe to it. Bear in mind, just over the back there is the airport, and yet it never felt like it. This is Bali after all, so you do want it to feel like a relaxing destination, even if you are technically at an airport hotel. Again, apart from the super peak periods in the morning, this was never that busy, and a great place to have a little swim before or after a long flight. This shot I took here perfectly illustrates what I mean by it being a resort hotel close to the airport. This all seems very chilled and relaxed, doesn't it? But if you zoom in, there's the airport terminal, showing just how close you are. I really loved the contrast, and I was willing to have this better feel of a hotel whilst it's not directly connected to the airport. Anyway, enough of the facilities, it's time to check the important breakfast. Breakfast is served just off the side of the check-in area in the lobby. As I mentioned earlier, this does not have walls, and so it's partly open air, albeit with a roof, so it can get a little bit hot, although the fans did help. A coffee machine was provided, which would make a wide variety of drinks, including Americanos, lattes, espressos, cappuccinos. Great for that first caffeine hit in the morning. Various cut fruits were available, as well as a selection of cold cuts and yogurts. I've got to say, the presentation on these is far better than I would have expected from a Hilton Garden Inn. They also had a make-your-own salad section, although I can't comment on how good this was because I didn't have a salad for breakfast. Bread was available together with a toasting machine, and also some croissants and local Indonesian pastries, as well as a donut. So far, I was very impressed with the wide variety of options, and also from the fact that most of them were covered, as this is a tropical, semi-outdoor climate. The choices continue with a number of hot, Western and Indonesian options. I liked how they blended various dishes that have a local flavour with international dishes if you don't want to try the local food. I did, but I can understand how some people with more sensitive stomachs might not want to. The food looked and tasted delicious. One section which I always love to see at a breakfast buffet is a fresh waffle and pancake section. You could just take the pre-made ones if you were in a hurry, or you could request that they be made to order to your preference. Another thing that I liked seeing was the Western traditional full English breakfast section. Look, I'm in Bali and I like Indonesian food, so I didn't have any of this. But maybe if you're an older guest or less adventurous, it would be great to have this. As it's a breakfast buffet, I sampled several of the dishes and also had a local juice and a water and numerous cups of coffee. From the pancake section, every day I went for pandan pancakes. I personally love the pandan flavour and always have it when it's an option, so it was great to see they had it on the pancakes. The coffee tasted good and gave me that much needed caffeine hit. As you can see here, breakfast also never got particularly busy. I filmed this at around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and there was plenty of seating available. And this is also in July, which is about as peak season as Bali gets. So conclude from this what you will, but you certainly won't be struggling to get a table for breakfast. In conclusion, this was an excellent hotel, and I would not hesitate to stay here again. I've stayed here in the past, and this stay was no exception to their usual high quality. The location, about a 5-minute drive from the airport, is excellent. The overall feel of a hotel is very nice and quite resort-like considering it's an airport hotel. They have all the facilities you could need, from a laundry room to a gym to a swimming pool. The room was nicely appointed, spacious, and came with a super large, very comfortable king bed. And the breakfast? Probably one of the nicest breakfasts I've had at a Hilton Garden Inn hotel. Look, this is Bali, so you've got to be realistic that this is not the nicest hotel you could book here. There are some absolutely fabulous 5-star resorts on this island. However, for an airport hotel, it's exceptional, and I could see this hotel coming in handy in 2 distinct cases, which are conveniently the only 2 times I ever book it. The first is if I'm on a budget, and so I don't want to pay the 5-star resort rates to get that beachfront property. You can book here and simply travel to the beach, or travel to the temples, or travel to Ubud whenever you want to. It's a great way to save money, and it's a very nice hotel. Even though you're on a budget, you're not suffering staying here. The second is if your flight arrives very late or departs very early from Bali. You see, Bali has some very early and late arrivals. For example, it's possible to catch a flight from Singapore that gets you into Bali after midnight. I could totally see how checking into one of those 5-star beach resorts at 2 o'clock in the morning would be a bit of a waste, because some of them can be very expensive. What I've done in the past is checked in here for the first night, pretty much just fallen straight asleep, woken up the next day, had breakfast, and then gone on to my next hotel, saving a small fortune in the meantime. And you really can save a fortune staying here. For my night, in the suite, I paid $80 US. That's right, you heard me correctly. For a 1-bedroom king suite, I paid $80. Given some of the 5-star hotels here can run $2, $3, $4, sometimes even $500, spending your first or your last night at the airport hotel could be a very economical way to stay. I really like this hotel, and I'd go as far as to say it's one of the nicest airport hotels in the world, certainly at the $80 price point. And do also bear in mind, this was a suite. A standard room was available for about $60. I will definitely stay here again, and I highly recommend you do too. 5 out of 5 stars.